Hi, everybody. How you doing?
There we go. There we go.
Welcome to day 2 at Google I/O. I'm Timothy Jordan. I'm a developer advocate here at Google. And last January, Fabric joined forces with Firebase at Google. Now, Firebase helps you build better mobile apps and grow your business. And Fabric helps you build great apps, understand your users, and grow your business. So you can see there's some overlap here. And yet, we've still been getting some questions from developers about this move. And so we thought, hey, let's get some people on stage who are familiar with all the details and try and answer as many of those questions as possible. So I'd like to introduce the panel. First over there, we've got Jason Titus, VP of Engineering at Google. Hi, Jason.
Hey, everybody.
We've got Rich Paret, General Manager of Fabric.
Hey.
And we have Andrew Lee, co-founder of Firebase.
Good morning.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're happy to be here still, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think I can see in their eyes they brought hard-hitting questions. So, well, we're going to spend some time just on a few questions that I have that I've heard from developers over the last few months. We'll probably cover some of the things you might have wanted to ask. And then I have lists of questions from social media, and hopefully we can take some of those and some of your questions as well. When we get to that point, there's microphones in each of these aisles. I'll let you know. You don't need to stand up now. Sound good? Ready? Great. So Jason, let's start with the big picture. Why have Fabric join Google?
Well, if you heard yesterday, it's actually really important to us that Google is working with the broader development community and that we're really making the best tools we can to help developers be successful. And when we looked at what we've done at Firebase, we were like, we're really happy with sort of across the range a number of the things we've built. There was areas, and we looked across the overall developer tooling space, there were certain things where there were other players out there who were doing amazing work, and Fabric was one of them, where when we saw the level of love that Crashlytics and Answers and Digits users had, we said this could actually be something where if we brought these two teams together, we could really be the best and really be solving people's problems well. So it's very, very worth noting to sort of Timothy's point earlier, was when we first got these teams together and I was going out to Cambridge to meet everyone, and we were putting together slides to talk to the teams about, hey, we're all going to be working together. It was literally, okay, we're going to have the mission statement of one team and the other, and I'm like, I'm not actually sure which one is Firebase's and which one is Fabric's, because they're really the DNA, the focus, the passion of the teams is the same. It's around helping you guys get your work done and sort of relentlessly focusing on, let's get feedback. What are we doing well? What are we not? What are areas that are really hard for developers that we can make easier?
Awesome. So maybe taking even one more step back in a bigger picture, which is why is Google investing in mobile development at all?
Well, it turns out this mobile thing is a thing, right? There is so much. It's one of the really exciting things about mobile development right now. It's just the level of innovation, the pace of innovation. I mean, if you look, we all take it for granted, but if you look at almost everything we do, like whether it's how people get around or cook food or meet their friends or take photos or whatever, it's been changed, and it's been changed by folks like yourselves. It is, and in a really short time window. And so what we see is this opportunity to accelerate the ability of people who see a problem and say, like, here's something that really, gosh, waiting for a taxi really sucks. This is really such a pain. I wish there was a way, things like that you can actually use technology to solve, but so much of the work, probably 90% of the work, ends up being sort of infrastructure crap that nobody wants to deal with, that is not about the problem you're solving. And so we think if Google is part of that and helps you, that we can be, whether it's helping you on the back end through Google Cloud, or we can help you get users in the future as you grow with advertising, we think it's a good thing for our business long term.
Awesome. All right, let's get to some specifics. Rich, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
What's changed since Fabric joined Google, and what can developers look forward to?
Sure. I'll take it from the team's perspective. I think the teams are really highly aligned, as Jason said, and as you said, the missions are so similar that we felt at home right away. From the product side, you saw a lot of things that we just launched, right? So Crashlytics is going to be the default crash reporter for both Fabric and Firebase going forward. We had a great digits launch where we're going to graduate that product into Firebase phone authentication. And then on the going forward side, something I'm really excited about, Crash Insights, which is a product that takes Crashlytics beyond like the line of code that crashed in your app to what are the root causes of those crashes. We just announced that that went into beta, and I'm really excited for everybody to use that and give us feedback. So that's like a looking forward thing.
Awesome. All right, Andrew, what about on the Firebase side?
So if you stopped by the developer keynote yesterday, you probably saw a number of announcements from us. We added phone number authentication to support both the digits customers, but everyone who's using Firebase Auth. We launched a brand new performance monitoring product to let you time things in your applications. We open sourced our SDKs. We have better Swift support. We connected hosting to Cloud Functions. And if you don't know about Cloud Functions, it's a product we launched in March. That's been a big success. We have over 1 billion functions have been executed in the last couple of months. And there's a whole bunch of more announcements around analytics and games and other things. So it's been a busy time.
Awesome. OK, so let's talk a little bit about the collaboration, though. How have Firebase and Fabric been working together since joining Google? How are the teams meshing?
I think getting us sitting together in San Francisco was a big start, right? So that was a good one. I think that we did a lot of collaboration on the digits to Firebase phone authentication. And I've already seen, we announced that yesterday, and people are already using the automated workflow to link their digits accounts and their Fabric apps to Firebase and do a seamless migration. It's like really important for us because it means that your end customers don't have to do any work, right? And so I think that that's like the kind of care that we've been taking to when we work together make these things really seamless. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's been a tremendous amount of collaboration, even in things that maybe aren't visible. So for example, many of the Fabric folks helped with the last few weeks getting ready for the Cloud Functions launch, and they helped with some of the hosting stuff that we did, and vice versa. So bringing in kind of that new perspective and a new set of eyes to help us really polish our products has been really helpful as well.
Awesome. OK, let's talk a little bit about some of the rough edges. Because there are always a few. So let's name them and talk through them. What are some of the rough edges that we're working on? Say the highlights that you have, Rich.
Sure. So I'm really customer guided, and we talked to a lot of customers, including ones that use Firebase and Fabric today. And they're really leading the way in terms of how we're thinking about this integration. And they say, like, listen, I already know I've signed up for Fabric, I'm signed up for Firebase. I use the best of both platforms in order to build my app, understand my customers, and grow my business. And from their perspective, and from mine, the rough edge here is they have to toggle between two dashboards in order to do that, right? So they might do one activity in Firebase, and they say, OK, well, now that that's done, I have to go open up Fabric and understand something like the stability of my app or retention of customers, et cetera. And I think that we can do better there. I think we can bring a unified dashboard experience, and so that's a rough edge that I'm excited about smoothing out.
Awesome. OK, and this is the next question is for everybody. Let's talk about what's next. Now, there's a lot that we can't talk about as far as future features and that kind of thing, but what is it that we're working on that we're excited about that we can share?
Sure, I can start with that. So I keep talking about Cloud Functions, but it's really very cool. It lets you respond to events with code and do things that otherwise would have required you to stand up a backend service. With just a few lines of code, you can get up and running in a few minutes. And we have a few event sources already. You can get events from hosting as of yesterday. You can get events from your database. But there's 16 products in Firebase. There's a whole bunch of things over in Fabric and across Google that don't emit events yet for Cloud Functions to consume. And I think we can do a lot better there. And I'm excited to work on that.
Awesome. Yeah. Rich?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to build on that because this is such a great answer. I think that was one of the things that we were most excited about coming into Google was Cloud Functions and its imminent launch, and then when it did go out. And we have a lot of customer data locked up in Crashlytics, locked up in Answers, and wouldn't it be great if we could take some of those events and link them up to Cloud Functions? Now, no promises, right, in terms of like when you might see something like that, but it's something that we're talking about a lot internally.
OK.
Yeah, I would actually, on the data side, to me, that's like one of the largest opportunities where both from Answers and from Firebase Analytics, or now Google Analytics for Firebase, we have a huge amount of data that we think is really valuable for developers, and making that available and really easy to use through things like BigQuery. So saying, we're going to give you a bunch of useful information and charts that are pretty good for everybody, but if you want to go in and look at your users' data to understand, or your usage data and such, to understand what are your users doing, put together predictive models using machine learning or whatever, that is a really, really valuable source of information for you to be able to mine and work with in a bunch of different ways. And we actually think that's something that as a company we're pretty good at, and that we can provide a whole set of tools around that. So I would say whether it's feeding the events to do functions or giving you the tools to analyze data in lots of interesting ways or do machine learning on it, I think those are going to be exciting areas for us.
Awesome. OK, so now it's time for specific developer questions that we've been getting on social and from the audience. I'll have you guys get in the mic in just a few minutes, but I'm going to ask some of these first. And let's start with a question from me for you two guys. Did you all know each other before joining Google? Because it feels like there would be some professional camaraderie there.
We actually had never met. So I had met the co-founders of Fabric, but I never actually met Rich.
That's right. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts, so I don't get out here a too terrible amount. But yeah, the first time we met was actually in Cambridge when you came out after the acquisition, right?
Yep.
We do have something in common, though. We shared when we were Crashlytics before it was acquired by Twitter, and then Firebase before it was acquired by Google. We had a co-investor.
Yep, and that's how I met Jeff and Wayne, and I understand that you guys got a ski trip out of the deal, and we didn't.
That's right. Yeah. So it turned. Yeah. It depends on who's on your board, I guess. But now that we're together, we can do a ski trip, like a joint one. So that's
awesome.
Good. Yeah.
If Jason approves it.
I don't know. West Coast skiing, yes.
Oh, OK. All right.
And now that the teams are together, are you guys starting to share culture from the two companies?
Now might actually be a really good time.
Oh, yeah.
So actually, I brought you a present.
Oh, awesome.
So every year on June 27th is an important holiday in Firebase land, and it is Bring Your Pineapple to Work Day.
OK.
So I just wanted to help you be prepared for this year.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's for you.
Thank you so much.
It's your very own pineapple.
Yeah, what is the origin of Bring Your Pineapple to Work Day?
One day I just brought a pineapple to work because I wanted it for lunch, and James said, "Hey, what's up with the pineapple?" And I said, "Oh, it's Bring Your Pineapple to Work Day." And he said, "That's not a thing. That's not a real holiday." And I said, "Yeah, it is." And I put it on the calendar, and I put it on repeat, and then I forgot about it. And the next year, after we actually hired some employees, we showed up at work, and our employees had brought pineapples. And we said, "What's up with the pineapples?" And they're like, "I don't know. It's on the calendar."
Got it.
So now it's a thing.
That's awesome. Well, I have a thing that I'm known for, and I thought, I heard that you might be giving me this gift, and so I've got something for you.
Ooh.
And it's a little...
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Do
Oh, we got to see this.
you think I should put it on?
Yeah, and I'm taking a photo.
OK,
so.
good. Oh, now you look great.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's excellent.
Perfect, yes. Fashion evolution right before your eyes.
That's very good. OK, let's get to some of these questions. All right, first off is, what will happen to answers?
What will happen to answers? That's a great question. So answers, if you don't know, is the underpinning of what makes Fabric in terms of the real-time understanding of how your app is doing. Powers everything from MAU and DAU on the Fabric dashboard to things like velocity alerts and Crashlytics. It's a really important part of Fabric and something that we hear from customers all the time that they really love and value. And so it's important for us to take that experience forward into a unified Firebase and Fabric experience.
Very cool. All right, so I'm going to ask a few more questions, but I'd like to invite you all to start lining up at the microphones so that you can ask your questions as well. They're very nice and informative with their answers. So what about digits in China? Will it work?
Got it. So let's see. So Digits is a phone number authentication product that we announced yesterday. Is going to become Firebase phone authentication. And what's going on behind the scenes there is we're moving our backend infrastructure from Twitter, where it is today, to Google. And we expect this to be really, really good for customers. However, if you didn't know how SMS authentication works, you have to do deals with SMS providers, carrier by carrier, country by country. And as a result, Digits has worked up to this point, sort of not intentionally in China. And going forward, it most likely will not work, again, sort of through circumstances not entirely in our control.
OK.
I think while we're talking about China, I guess I want to just note that we do have a lot of customers that have a lot of end users in China. And we've heard from you that it's really important, like, hey, I need to understand how my app is performing in China. And so message received, and we're working really hard to make sure that that aspect of Fabric and Google Analytics for Firebase doesn't go away.
Okie doke. So we'll get back to these. Let's take some of the audience questions, starting over here.
OK, hello, Michael. A question to Andrew. How do you feel about the mysterious data spikes in Firebase database usage analytics? Like there is an article from the home automation from yesterday, and we experienced that as well in our product, that basically the data usage spikes in a mysterious way, and basically you solve that on, let's say, one-to-one basis, and there is, let's say, no origin to that problem. And that's origin. We had that problem a year ago, and currently dozens of other companies have as well. So is there any, let's say, work in progress on that?
OK, so I'll repeat the question here. So I understand you're asking about the blog post that was published yesterday, where there was a developer who had a much lower bill, and then there was a spike in the usage of the price of that bill. And I can speak to that. So for some context, this customer had a number of IoT devices out in the wild that were polling the Firebase database. And we made a couple of changes that changed their bill. One of the changes that we made was that we actually started enforcing quotas on our Flame plan. We have a fixed price $25 a month plan, which up until very recently actually gave you sort of unlimited levels of usage, even though we listed certain amounts because we actually hadn't built the quota enforcement infrastructure yet. And so we actually started applying those quotas and requiring people that were exceeding the limits to upgrade to our pay-as-you-go plan. So that was one of the reasons. And then the other thing that happened at the same time is there was a bug that we'd introduced late last year that had miscounted the network usage for the database. So people that were doing very heavy SSL negotiation traffic with us, but otherwise using small data usage, could see large changes in their data usage. So the vast majority of customers saw very small changes, but a few cases, and this was one of those edge cases where the vast majority of their traffic was the handshake, because they were polling, and usually there was no data to return. So it was this SSL handshake over and over and over again that was ringing up a lot of data usage. And so we're working with the developer directly. And actually, if you look at the blog post, they've uploaded the blog post with some of that information. And if you're having sort of similar things that you're running into, I'd be happy to talk with you outside afterwards. Generally, I'd encourage folks, if anyone is seeing things like this, we should talk it through.
So,
Did you have a quick follow-up?
Adding to that question, maybe the status page would be very nice for you to have, maybe.
I didn't quite hear that, did you?
You're asking about the status page?
Yeah.
We have a status page.
Oh, sorry.
It should be linked from our website. If it's not, we'll check on that. Have you?
It is. If you go to firebase.google.com
Okay.
and click on support.
Sure, thank you.
And can we, for the next question, can we either boost the mics or boost the monitor? It's kind of hard to hear them up here.
Yeah.
Hi. You said you were planning to merge the both interfaces from Fabric and Firebase. And I was wondering, maybe there's a way now and I'm not aware of, but in the future, if there's a way to merge the analytics of Firebase with the Crashlytics. For instance, I could see, for example, for all my users that had 2 items in the cart, that there's a specific crash in kind of one unified dashboard.
Yeah,
The question was about seeing Crashlytics and analytics data together.
Yeah, and particularly, I think like what you're talking about is like an audience, right? That you can build in Google Analytics for Firebase and then understand their stability. Yes, absolutely. That's something that we're excited about the possibility for that integration to happen.
Any time frame?
No, we're working on it. I think we're not going out with timeframes right now, not because we're not working hard at it, but we want to be really thoughtful about how we bring these things together. People use both Firebase and Fabric to run their whole business. And so we want to be cognizant of that and putting out really high quality stuff and being thoughtful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Back over here.
Hey guys, is that loud enough?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. So Fabric has the suite of kits, which is pretty comprehensive. Just wondering, what is the future of kits in Google, and are there still going to be other partner organizations providing kits? And Is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we launched third-party Kit support directly integrated into Fabric about a year and a half ago, and it really exceeded our expectations. I think coming in, I think there's desire to do some kind of integration here, but it's really early. And so I would encourage you, nothing about those integrations are changing today for Fabric, and we're looking for ways to bring it forward, but I don't have like a comprehensive strategy to share with you today. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think there's one of the things we like about the kit model is the idea that we can have best-of-breed solutions for different parts that maybe we might not spend as much time on. And certainly, if you look at things like Cloud Functions, we would imagine that there's other areas where we might be able to allow third parties to provide sort of plug-and-play solutions right into the system. But we want to merge it in thoughtfully, and I think some of the kits are more just co-marketing things of saying, hey, we're going to let everyone be aware of other products, and I think we would probably be more thoughtful around what are the areas where we could actually provide developers with something that they wouldn't be able to otherwise have through an integration.
Thank you.
Thank you. And over here.
Hey, I was wondering if you guys are going to plan on merging Fabric Beta and the Alpha Beta programs for Google Play?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
I think that's definitely something we're looking at.
Yeah.
Like we feel like we have two great solutions in this space, and certainly if you look at the amount of investment the Play team has been doing on improving the Alpha and Beta, I think it makes total sense to say the two things should align and work well together.
Yeah, and Beta was the second product we ever shipped after Crashlytics, and we've seen a ton of investment both from Play and then on the iOS side from Apple with TestFlight. And we've actually, when we talk to beta customers, they've actually changed how they use Beta. They're using it more for internal testing. So we're actually talking to a lot of customers. There are people over in the sandbox right now that work on this product, and I encourage you to give them your feedback on how you would like to see it evolve to sort of be more harmonized with both TestFlight and Play.
Yeah, because we use it internally, and then we use the beta stuff or the Alpha Google Play stuff for external. And I want to kind of like graduate that smoothly out to people.
We're highly aligned, absolutely.
Awesome. Back over here.
Hi, Saif here. I was wondering that now Firebase and Crashlytics are joining. Is there any plans for merging Crashlytics and Firebase Crash Reporting?
It's a great question.
Yeah, so we announced yesterday, right, that Crashlytics is now the recommended crash reporter for Firebase and for Fabric. And so if you're looking to decide which crash reporter to use, you should be using Crashlytics. Now, we talked about rough edges a little bit here. That does require you to use two consoles today. Our goal is to make that a simple, single, unified experience.
Yeah. Okay, and is there any guides for migration?
I believe so, but you know what? Come up and talk to me afterwards, or go to the sandbox and we can walk you through it.
If you're an existing Firebase Crash Reporting user and you're happy, sit tight.
Yep.
We'll be providing materials to help you move over when the time is right. But for now, there's nothing you need to do.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I actually have two questions. So the first question, you guys talked a lot about merging the dashboards of the two platforms together, which is great. I have difficulty using Google Cloud Platform dashboard and the Firebase dashboard and then the Crashlytics dashboard. And I was also wondering, in terms of design, they're totally different. Like Fabric looks visually different from Firebase. What are you guys thinking about how you're designing that for consistency so that customers coming from both platforms feel comfortable with it?
As you might imagine, this is a very active source of discussion internally, actually.
Yeah. We just actually had a design sprint bringing the designers from both teams together in New York City last week, and it was very productive. I was pretty inspired by the results, and it's way too early to share, but I do think that a lot of the visual elements here are going to converge in a way that feels right for both Firebase and Fabric customers.
Yeah, and as far as I think we'll have a very clear sort of merged experience that I think will be both understandable and also sort of bring the best elements of each. I think as far as integration with the overall Google Cloud dashboards, we were looking very solidly at like where are the most common touch points between them and how do we make those as smooth and straightforward as possible.
Okay, and then my second question, you alluded to having BigQuery support. Do you have any idea around the timeline? I would love to be able to use BigQuery to query some of the Crashlytics stuff, because a lot of the information we're getting is already predefined and preset, and just having the granularity to be able to control that data would be awesome.
Yeah, you're not alone, right? Lots of people would like that. The team is really excited about that. With full candor, what we're trying to trade off is how much can we migrate Crashlytics into Google-owned and operated infrastructure and provide a continuity of service for the whole product, and then how much engineering resources go to that, and then how much go towards doing an integration with Firebase Console, how much does that go into cool features like BigQuery. And so it's a balance. We have a portfolio approach. So I don't have anything to share in terms of like when you can expect that, but that's something that the team is really excited about and we're looking at.
It is definitely one of the things we view as where we can provide a bunch of value, is specifically saying you're generating a bunch of data using our tools about your users and your application, and how can we then let you do great things with it.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to slip in a couple questions here as well. One of these that I've been hearing a lot is, will Fastlane continue to be open source?
Great question. Absolutely yes. Fastlane was open source when we brought it into Fabric like a year and a half ago. We've only grown the open source contribution. We have core contributors to Fastlane that work here at Google. We also have a significant community of core contributors who work outside of Google. So yeah, we're definitely committed to maintaining the open source aspects of Fastlane.
And I want to add to that. So Firebase in general is committed to open source as well, and we open source our SDKs, as you saw yesterday. And this is an incremental thing. It's going to take us a while to kind of get everything out into the open. But we want to move in a direction of more open, not more closed.
That's great. And not too far distant from that is this question: will Fabric continue to support iOS?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have a really strong and loyal tribe of developers that love us on iOS and on Android, and we're going to continue to support them.
Yeah, it is really one of the things that was important to us when we were looking at Fabric was saying, Firebase has been from the start cross-platform, and it's really important to us that folks recognize that, and seeing the amount of positive feedback and attention from iOS developers for Fabric was one of the great things about it.
Okay, let's go back to questions over here.
Should we expect Crashlytics to require Google Play services one day?
That's a great question. No plans at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah, we're definitely looking at what the best way to get the SDKs working as broadly in the ecosystem as possible. So that's...
Okay, thank you.
So you announced all these nice profiling tools yesterday for Firebase. Is there a plan to integrate Crashlytics data with those profiling tools, like finding some traces, like other than just the stack trace, but like memory states and network states when a user crashes?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, so this is definitely something we're looking at. I don't think we have any particular plans we're prepared to share, but one of the big value propositions of Firebase is supposed to be that the products work well with each other. So when you authenticate, you get access to resources. When you hook things up to cloud functions, you can pass data back and forth. You can export stuff from, hopefully, Crashlytics to BigQuery, et cetera. And this is, I think, a very obvious integration for not just Crashlytics, but a whole bunch of products that we'd really love to know, how is your database performing, for example? So we're definitely looking at that.
Yeah, I would say one of the great things about these two teams coming together is sort of conversations like that are happening between the teams. Like, hey, here's what we're doing, and wouldn't it be cool if we could hook these two things up so we could tell a more comprehensive story about the performance of your app? So it's definitely something that teams are talking about.
Yeah, it's important to note that the Firebase Performance offering this is sort of the 1.0 out the door, but we think there's a lot we can do with it across, giving really good performance analysis across a wide range of things. And we have people who are very passionate, know the space well. We acquired a small company called Pulse.io that was just focused on this a year and a half ago or so. And those folks were very involved in building that. So we do have people who are passionate about looking at performance as a problem overall. And I think if you look at what we've been working on with the Play team, overall for the Android ecosystem. You'll see you can get sort of basic information on all these different issues that might be happening with your app in production, and then you can go in and get more through Firebase. And my expectation is we'll do that more broadly across other parts of the company.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Firebase and Fabric are both great products for mobile. Is there any plan to sort of do JavaScript error tracking and anything for web?
So I don't think we have anything particular to share on that front right now. In general, the web platform and the mobile native platforms have different requirements. So like the types of things you would get out of a crash reporter are quite different. The types of performance you might want to measure are quite different. And so it's not that we haven't seen interest. It's that we had to start somewhere, and we focused on the area what we thought was most critical. But we're definitely discussing it.
And there are things that you can do with Firebase on the web today.
Yes, absolutely. So we have the full suite of the developed products is actually available, including things like cloud messaging and hosting and authentication. And so we're looking at what else we should maybe bring over for sure.
Yeah, I think the performance one is one of the ones that's a little bit trickier to determine. I actually had a conversation with the developer last night who is very interested in getting support across all smart televisions, which are all doing JavaScript-based things, but on different engines, and it can be very tricky. And so we'd want to make sure that if we were going to do something, it would provide clear value and wouldn't just lead to the next question of, oh, sure, it works on this browser, but what about this embedded view kind of thing?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, guys.
Sure. Okay, some more questions from my list. This is one we've gotten a little bit today, is will you start charging? It's a Fabric question.
Yeah. So you had a really good story about like how you're thinking about monetization, and you answered that question. Do you want to give a little bit of an overview about like how Firebase is charging right now, and then we can go into like Fabric?
Sure. So yeah. So Firebase has products kind of across the spectrum, from helping you build your app to addressing app quality issues to growing your application. And many of the products that we offer are free, and they're sort of intentionally free if they're in the app quality space, if we're trying to help you improve quality, or if they're things that really tie into how your app is performing and growing, because Google has interests in those areas. And the area that we charge for is the areas where we're helping you build your app. So we help you store data, we help you store videos and images, we charge you for cloud functions. And I think the way this affects Crashlytics, Fabric going forward, is that we'll do the same sort of thing. So the phone number authentication we added in Firebase Auth, we will be charging for. But the core Crashlytics offering and the analytics offerings will continue to remain free.
Right. And I think when you look at if you like line the products up side by side in terms of like what you're hiring them to do, a lot of the stuff that's coming in from Fabric has analogs in Firebase today that are free. And even digits to phone number auth, that's going to be free for about 90% of existing Digits customers that are going into that product too. So we try to only charge where we can in terms of volume. And then again, of course, we hope you do use the products like cloud functions, like real-time database and storage, what we do charge for.
And this also does, it comes from also, I think, an interest that I've heard from many developers, as we've talked to people all around the world saying, hey, we've had some developer platforms in the past that we kind of depended on that companies just gave up on or walked away from or whatever, and that's actually been pretty painful. And so it's important to us that from the beginning, Firebase is a sustainable business for Google. Like if you're doing huge amounts of compute and firing functions all the time and storing vast quantities of images or doing massive database queries, we'll build that as a usage-based thing, and I think it'll end up being much less expensive than it would be to do probably any other way. But it ends up being something that makes sense for Google as a business. If your company becomes the next Snapchat, that's great for everybody involved. And then on things like app quality, obviously we care a lot about having the mobile ecosystem be very successful. We have very strong interest in that. And certainly when you want to start doing things like growing and doing advertising to get new customers and things like that, as a company, we have a huge range of products around that. So we want to say that the things we do actually drive value both to you guys and to Google as a business, and that should be visible to you so that you know that 5 years from now, this will all still be running and you'll be happy that you built your business on it.
I think you answered my next question, but let's see if you have anything to add to it, which is, will my stuff break at some date in the future?
Yeah.
If you do not introduce bugs, which we all do. So, yeah, our goal is to be a good partner for you. And that's actually one of the reasons why we have put more and more focus on creating a clear, strong, supported subset across. Google in the past had done many things, sometimes done well, sometimes not as well for developers. And so we've said, we have areas like Google Cloud where as a company we're behind it, and I would say at Firebase, we're committing to you that this is something you can build your business on, that it's going to work well together, they should be clear. And as I just said, and you should hopefully be able to say, oh, I see. If we do really, really well, I can see how Google is happy to have us as a partner.
And hopefully you've actually seen that with what we've done so far. So Firebase came in as an acquisition 2.5 years ago. The folks that were running apps from before that acquisition, it all still runs. They can use the same SDKs. So I think we've demonstrated an ability to do that, and we're hoping to do that again for Fabric.
I believe with Digits, we've been working very hard with the existing Digits customers as well.
That's right.
All right, we have just a few more minutes left. So real quick, if I could ask you all, what's your vision for the future? What are you most excited about in mobile development over the next months to years? Let's start with you, Andrew. You kind of look around.
Yeah, that's a big question. I'm very excited about the kind of serverless space that you've probably heard about. I think the bar for the sort of technical complexity to get an app running is getting lower and lower, and with things like Cloud Functions and all of the client-accessible resources that we're building and other folks are building, it's getting a lot easier just to build things. I'm also excited about the proliferation of internet-connected devices. We have light bulbs with internet in them, and the types of things you can do together with a mobile app and a light bulb and an assistant that you can talk to, and integrating those together, I think is going to be a very exciting space as well. You guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I think so. I started working in this space about 5 years ago with Crashlytics, and I was really struck by the fact that they were like, oh yeah, your app can crash, and developers just, they have no way to know, right? And I was like, boy, it's like the Wild West, right, in terms of like zero infrastructure capabilities. And we've come a long way with things like Firebase and Fabric, where we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting so that you guys can focus on what's value added about your app. And not having to recreate all of these things. I think we're at the point now where I'm excited about, hey, now that I have a stable app and I understand my customers, like, what are the tools that I need to really grow my business, and how can things like machine learning help me understand what my customers are doing in my app and help me make a better app that either is more enticing to customers or helps me engage and retain the customers I already have. And there are a lot of things that we have in that space. There are a lot of other things that other people have in that space, and I think it's like an exciting direction for mobile.
Yeah, I think the machine learning piece and the capabilities around that to me are, how do we make it, I feel like we're doing a reasonably good job of taking away some of the lower level infrastructure, like just grunt work that folks have had to do, and we've been bit by bit raising the bar. But if I look out to the future, like I would love, well actually I had an interesting conversation with somebody from the press who's from Montreal, and I'll butcher it, but I think they had this, he was saying there's apparently some kind of meat that is like maybe a hot dog kind of thing or something in Montreal that everybody does, and he's like, I saw all this talk about machine learning, and I'm not really a programmer, but I thought I would make an app that would let you take a photo and recognize whether the thing was the real Montreal hot dog type thing. And I was like, wow, that's great that somebody feels that we're almost there. Like, I think we're still a little ways from that, but the power of that idea that we can't, I don't think it's that far, and I think we can start to say, if you have something that you see as a problem, even if you're not tremendously technical, you could actually go solve it. And if you are really strong technically, you can do amazing things. We can give you magic powers. Like I was at Shazam for 3.5 years, and one of the things I loved about it was for that moment in time, it was making technology that felt like magic. And machine learning is that again. And so I think for us, what we can do is give you guys tools that allow you to incorporate that into your applications in meaningful ways, and just keep adding layers of really useful and powerful infrastructure so you guys can go after whatever problems you see.
We actually have a whole talk on Firebase and machine learning tomorrow morning. So check it out.
There you go.
All right, I think that's an excellent note to end on. Thank you very much for being on this panel, and thank you for your great questions.
Thank you, guys.